Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to bring you this video about Joe Biden canceling the credit bureaus, but the facts that nobody is telling you. If you are new to my channel, please consider to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're interested on improving your credit on your credit journey and learning how to leverage your credit to make income. So let me jump into this video. Now, the basis of Joe Biden canceling or trying to replace the credit bureaus with a public agency is he's trying to have the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to house data information because of the wealth inequality along with African Americans and Latino Americans or Latinos, because there's a big wealth gap when it comes down to the majority of people and their wealth are wrapped into their home ownership. And so they are looking at the fact that it is harder, or there are Black and Latino people, or African American or Black or Latino, whatever phrase you want to use, that does not have access to credit because of the wealth inequality over the generations. Situations like redlining and not being able to have access to jobs. And my parents, I'm actually a landlord. My parents experienced redlining back in the 70s. They bought their first home in 1974 before I was born. And they had some issues in certain urban areas. It was hard for you to get a mortgage. So they had to save up the cash at that time to purchase their first multifamily home that we lived in, and then turned around in 89. It was the same situation when they invested in a multifamily property. It had a number of units, 6 units, and they had the same situation. They actually had to pay cash $100,000 for that home at the time and leverage the equity out of another home that we actually lived in at that time. So this is a problematic situation, but far as canceling the credit bureaus, how that plays into helping someone qualify for a home because of what they're seeing with the joblessness numbers and what happened with the pandemic. This is going to extremely inflate those in a lower income category ability to gain wealth. So I have recognized this problem, and if you check my channel, I've been talking about this situation. I'm African American myself. I was a single mother, and I bought my first multifamily property at the age of 21. But here's my commentary and the facts that they're not telling you. I have bought a number of multifamily properties. And one thing, when I purchased my home, and even now to this day, the government program, which is called FHA, is not wholly, or very rarely is it really hardly based on your credit score. So you can purchase a home right now with as a little as a 580 credit score. Actually, the FHA program, you can purchase a home with a 500 credit score, but the bank put overlays on the program itself for them to lend to you. With the FHA home buying, which is a government program, they are guaranteeing the bank that they will pay the bank if that person default on that loan. So by removing the standard of the credit bureaus are housing the data in a public credit bureau, but by monitoring by the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, it still is not going to help a person because the major the major factor for you to qualify for a home is your income. So I don't care if you give that person a 750 credit score, an 850 credit score. If they don't have the income in order to, and this is what they will take, is your annual income, times it by 3, and that's what you can qualify for a home amount. So when I made like 40,000 and they times it by 3, I can only afford a home for $120,000. And at that time, even when I purchased that was back in the 2000s, I still didn't have enough income to buy a single family home in the area I was looking for. And I was making 40 grand a year in the early 90s, but my income went up. So I had to get my first home as being a multifamily in a better area, because they can take that income that from those speculated rents and apply it to my own income before I purchase the home. So this is going to still be a problem. It's not going to help wealth inequality if that person don't have enough income. If that person don't have a job or are still being underpaid on their job, they still cannot qualify for a home. Even if you remove the credit factor out of there, it's not going to help people be able to qualify for a home. The problem is your income. This is why on my channel, I'm dedicated to teaching people how to leverage credit to gain wealth. That's what I saw way back when. I used my credit at a 21-year-old single mother and bought a multifamily property that I still own today. And I have instantly, when I purchased that property, gained wealth. And the house still makes me money to this day, and it increased in value. Another thing that they're not educating you on. What about the pure fact of, even with the student loan crisis, they're going to do student loan debt forgiveness up to $10,000 that's being discussed, which will be actually way more beneficial, which is great. And don't get me wrong, I am not a cheerleader of the credit bureaus, because to my perspective, instead of even if they want to remove the credit bureaus, you already have the Consumer Financial Credit Bureau as the oversight of all CRAs. That means LexisNexis, Experian, the big three, Equifax, TransUnion, and CoreLogic, Novus, all of them. The Consumer Financial Credit Bureau is the oversight. The whole thing that I see, they need to enforce the laws that's already in place. If you have been a person that had disputed an item and you have went to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, if you didn't have all your ducks in a row, they might not even side with you, even though things are inaccurate on your credit report. Now, what needs to happen is a full enforcement of the laws that's already in place. And when we're talking about moving from a private corporation to a public entity, we see even there's problems in the healthcare system, public housing. Sometimes the government isn't the best component of overseeing certain things. They just really, it's too much paperwork. And those of us that are applying, even for the SBA loans, of the EDIL loan, we see even now that playing out. That government agency is not the best component of issuing out money. Now, for the side of what we have received as business owners with the PPP loan being turned over to the banks, it has been very efficient. We were able to get our loans on time. I'm applying for my second round, and it was no problems. So even with this credit information, are you going to be able to really dispute, or what's going to be in process? And keep in mind, you guys, this stuff of the changeover will be probably about a good 10 years or 7 years. if this takes place, it will be down the line. But one of the most key components, which is I see that can be easier if they just make the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually do their job, because 70% of credit reports have inaccurate information. They need to work from there. Then the second point is, why aren't we giving financial education in our school system? We need to educate people financially. Why isn't this a course? Why aren't you being taught when you're younger to how to handle money, how to handle credit? Many of us that took calculus, geometry, we barely even use those kind of courses. Why don't we have financial courses for those that are in high school all the way up, teaching us about credit, how to invest our money, how to create money as entrepreneurship? This kind of information is not being taught. So even if you're in a situation where they removed the credit bureau standard from housing, if that person, and I'm a landlord, if that person primarily is not making the income to support the rents. I own a home, a multi-family, and I have in the northeast. One was in Connecticut, one was in New Jersey. The rents there are higher rents. It doesn't matter what your credit score is. If you cannot afford that rent, and generally the standard of a tenant affording the rent is making 3 times as much as the rental rate. So a 2-bedroom apartment in New Jersey is going for $2,000 a month. So how is that going to help a person that's low income? It's still not going to help that person even with their credit score if they don't have the income itself. So the key component needs to be education, and also the education part on what people are spending their money on. You should be acquiring assets and not liabilities. And I preach that on my channel all the time. Even though I help people with their credit, but people that I have counseled, and those that you see that got the $23,000 credit lines coming out of foreclosure in 4 months, all of this was a discussion when I counsel people. What are we going to do moving forward not to be in this situation? Because the way it's set up, it doesn't matter if you have a large amount of income. That's what happened to me. I had a good paying job even when I purchased my house, even though I was only making $40,000 a year, but my salary went up to $80,000 a year. I was in the car industry. I worked for Ford Motor Company. But then you saw, in 2008, 06, 05, it was a mass layoffs and job cuts. How can you support that home, even if you purchased a home, if you don't have a job, if you lose employment? So for me, when I did lose my employment, the home that I owned at that time, I was living somewhere else, paid for my living, paid for my I had another apartment, paid for that apartment, and nothing came out of my pocket because I was a single mother. And at that point, I bought my second house at 25 with 2 children. So I had the income already going to subsidize my job. So this is what they're not telling you. This is not going to help wealth inequality when a person now, if they don't have access to credit, it's very hard. And what we already have out here is fintech companies. And if you look at my channel, I made videos. I just dropped the video. There are companies now that actually will just look at your income and extend you a line of credit from your income alone. So the income part of removing the credit bureaus or a credit score, removing that altogether is not going to fix the part of income. Only education can fix the part of income, because the more that they are printing money, the more stimulus money that's going out, you're going to see more inflation go up. And so a lot of people are happy because of the windfall, and I understand, because people need income. But what they don't tell you, the more money that they're putting into the system, the higher the inflation. So people like me that own property, we're the beneficiary of that money printing. And even more is the wealthy. This is why I try to encourage people why I save in silver and also invest in precious metals like gold, because the more that they print this money, the less your money is valued. It's not that the price of food is going up. It's not that it's a reason why now you go and get detergent and it's about this small. That is inflation. You are getting less for your dollar. Your dollar purchasing power is going down the more money they add into it. So like I always use the example, we all have been to a bar. And the more water that bartender or ice that bartender add to that vodka, the less potency. It's the same way with your money. The more they put more money, or what is really not even money, it's currency. The more currency that's not backed by anything, it's monopoly money, into the system, the less you can afford. So now you're seeing, even if they remove the credit out of the way, your income, even now, the house prices are skyrocketing. They are some of the highest house prices that has been in decades. The house prices are going up all across. If that person is already low income, how now with house prices going up can they still afford that home without even having a credit score, even with the credit taken out the way, and they're still jobless, or they're still making less than what that home is being worth? And keep in mind, it's not that the value of my home per se is going up. No, the house isn't increasing in wealth. Your dollar is decreasing on what it can afford, the purchasing power compared to your dollar. Your dollar just can't buy what it used to buy because they flooded the market. So this is going to be one of the ways that can learn and how to get out of this rat race. As Robert Kiyosaki would say, you need to learn how to invest in assets and not liabilities. Stop picking up vehicles and stuff that is not making you money. And I know some people, oh, well, I can buy a car and rent it on Turo. If you're doing that, that's great for you. But most people are not doing that, okay? If you're driving as a gig worker, and then kudos to you, because you're getting the benefits of driving that car and using that car for a business purpose. You are getting a deduction in your tax because you're a business. Most people are not getting a deduction in their tax because this United States system is based off of payroll tax. And you might make 50 grand a year, but you don't see 50 grand a year, and you get no tax write-offs. So you have to learn, how can I, number one, learn how to minimize my taxes. And one of those ways is starting a business. If you want to learn that, we have a business channel, how to keep your full-time job and start a part-time business, me and my daughter. Also, you need to learn how to leverage your credit in order to generate wealth. Instantly, me buying a home with my credit, upping my income. You can just by looking for multifamily, they're going to accredit some of that money looking in that area, about 65%, to your own income without you even owning that home or controlling that home. So many people want to, out the gate, before buying a starter home, go for a single family home, which is a liability. You don't get to write none of that stuff off of your taxes. I myself bought a 3-family, lived in 1 unit. It was in a great school system, still is, and I didn't have to pay my mortgage. I lived rent free and was able to stack my paycheck. And along with that, the house increased in value. And then now it's been increasing over the years, and I clear money from the home. I personally don't work anymore. So these are ways that you need to. If a person say, hey, I want to use my credit to, rent cars on Turo, and you build up your lines of credit to buy a car. There's a gentleman that did a testimonial, worked with me, got a $23,000 line of credit. And when you get that line of credit, now he can turn around and buy a vehicle for $8,000 and just rent it on Turo and have that car to make him money. Whatever ways you can buy homes with credit cards, depending on what region, getting large lines of credit cards. There are ways to do that. You can make money at home online. My daughter has a online store. There's ways for you to make money, and she's making money at 24 years old, actually about to leave her job right now, and will be just finishing college and now established herself where she don't have to work. So it is totally plausible, and she only have about $6,000 in student loan debt, and she can actually pay that off. Now, we avoided student loans, but so there's ways, you guys, that you can build wealth. But don't think that the credit bureaus being canceled is your end game. Your end game need to be to learn how to leverage your credit that you have now and increase your wealth. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just put it in the comments or in my description. I will leave my website information and I'll reply back to you. I just recently got married, so I'm still on my honeymoon, and I will be back to work probably sometimes next week. So God bless and enjoy your day.